Welcome to another episode of the A-Team at New Beginnings Farmstead. I'm Elisa Tinty, and we have everyone with us.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
And we were talking a little bit about our first jobs, right? And how it has shaped.
Well, I thought it was a good topic to talk about.
Yeah.
All right, so go ahead. You go first.
Well, mine doesn't really count for a whole. I mean, I got paid, but the first job I ever had was, I guess you could say, job, right? So, was working for my father. My father had a construction company. That was like, so it's family. Should we go with that?
Well, you were paid money
On payroll?
I was on payroll. Yeah.
There you go.
So I was an employee. I shouldn't say employee. I guess at 12 years old, you really can't be an employee. You got to have working papers at 14, right?
Yeah,
In New York
yeah.
State at
Mhm.
the time, anyway. But I did get paid, so I guess it is my first paid job. Yeah, I'll count. But it's different, right? Working for your parents or your family is very different than working for someone else.
Absolutely.
All right, so
I never worked for my parents, so I couldn't say
the other
Same.
way.
like that.
All right, so I actually worked for a dry cleaner in Kingston. That was my first job outside of my parents that I got paid for, and I found that
How old were you?
I was in college at Ulster, so I don't know, 17, 18.
So I'm going to back up. So you worked for your parents for money from the time you were 12 until when?
Pretty much until they passed away. No.
For money,
No,
I
I mean,
said.
no, seriously. It started to change once I started working for the city, because then I essentially became my own contractor and then just became a subcontractor.
Okay, so you worked steadily
Yes.
from 12 until you worked at the dry cleaner.
20, I mean, and I only took the dry cleaning job because it filled in between classes.
What did you do at the dry cleaner?
Initially, I was at the register, just kind of taking clothes, hitting tags, receiving clothing on the big racks that went around. And so that's essentially what I did. And then over the course of time, I started helping out with other things. And there was a Sanborn's Cleaners down in Kingston. And for a while, they were doing the like fire cleanups, kind of like what Pure Clean does now to some degree. So I did that. You know, if there was a fire, we processed the clothes with what was it called? Not Argon, but anyway.
What year were you there? Were you there in the
84, 85.
Oh, okay.
That was,
Do you know my husband's story about Sanborns and the fire?
That was no.
So when my husband was in middle school, the house that he was living in, which is the house his father still currently lives in. I don't mean to digress, but I feel like this is it.
Yeah.
So they were doing a roof work, and they hired a roofing company, and somebody was smoking and dropped a cigarette, and the house caught on fire. And they had to evacuate the house. They were able to save it, but all their stuff inside, all of his toys and everything got ruined. Well, he had this huge, huge Mickey Mouse, and they brought the Mickey Mouse and the clothes to Sanborn's to clean it. And then Sanborn's burned. And
wow.
Sanborn's
that is some
burned
story.
down,
Yeah, wow.
and they lost all their stuff from Sanborn's.
My
That's
God,
crazy.
Terrible.
horrible.
Yeah.
So they were located. They were initially located. I guess it would be
Weren't they on
Morton
Frog Ave?
Boulevard.
Morton
Morton
Boulevard
Boulevard.
initially,
Yes.
and then they moved when he built the new building on Boyce's Lane, right? So,
Yep.
that was-
Okay.
so I never made the transition over to the new building. I was at Morton Boulevard, and so
Terrible.
that's
Terrible.
crazy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the name of the stuff we used to Ozone, right? Is that the
terrible stuff.
Yeah.
stuff that cleaned out?
How are you still
Yeah.
alive?
And so I did that, and then I started picking up and making deliveries with the van, and because I had a license for the trucks and stuff like that. So, but it was great. I mean, Mark, at the time I worked with, seeing the dry cleaning process, and there were some late nights involved, and my cousin Patricia worked there as well. That's who kind of got me into the job in the first place. And so it was nice. It was a nice stopgap, and I found, that's where I learned how to actually sew. Like, as much as my mom did a lot of sewing in the house and made clothes for us when we were younger, I actually learned how to sew. There was Sue Sister Marie.
On a machine or by
On a
hand?
machine and by hand, both.
Okay.
She showed me different type of loops. I started with just doing buttons on a lot of the public safety or police uniforms that came in. And, when there was downtime, I'd go over in her section and I'm like, oh, well, I see the way you're wrapping it. And she'd show me how to do it. And then she kind of took me under her wing, and I'd come home and tell my mother, and she's like, yeah, but you should do it this way. And this is the way, I learn. And so just in between, I'm pretty good. I can't make my own pants, but I can.
So just a
certainly-
little tidbit. If you were to do the same job now, you wouldn't be called a seamstress. You would be called a sewist.
A sewist.
That's
Okay.
the new
Okay.
gender neutral term for
Oh,
seamstress.
Yeah, well, there you go. See, that learned something else.
Sewist.
See, but yeah, so she taught me quite a bit.
It's ridiculous.
Sewing the patches on the uniform.
Why? Because a man is sewing? That's why it's ridiculous?
No, it's a ridiculous name.
What would you call a man that's
A
sews?
seamstress.
Yeah,
A seamstress is like a waitress.
Right.
That's a woman.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be a woman.
Yes, it does. That's what
No.
that's
So-
waitress,
seamer.
seamstress.
Instead of seamstress or waitress, you could say waiter, seamer.
Yeah.
Seamer is not the word.
Well, clearly it's not, but sewer, right? No, what did you say?
Sewist.
Sewist.
So
No. Yeah, see, we're changing with the times.
no.
I don't understand how you could be so resistant, Android man. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that was a big thing. And again, I'd like to believe at the time I was raised to be a responsible person because of the responsibilities thrown on me and the expectations. Right, my parents, my father had very high expectations of me. In fact, he would expect me to know how to read architectural prints without any type of training, just based on the fact that I spoke the language. Right? Oh, you speak the English, right? Okay, this is it. You read? Okay, read this. I'm like, I don't even know what all these numbers mean. And anyway, so yeah, that was my story. And then from there, just kind of progressed through a couple of different things, and ultimately always coming back to construction. And from Sanborn's, I went into real estate, became a realtor. Listed properties, sold properties, got into some training, did some training for realtors. And it was do you need to tape that?
I don't.
Oh, okay. I thought it was on silent.
I did too, actually.
Interesting. Interruptions.
Sorry.
We should be another topic there. Phone etiquette.
It's on the list.
It
is on the
there you
list.
go. Well, at least you didn't answer. Anyway, so then from there, went to Watertown, New York for 2 years doing construction, and there I learned a tremendous amount of actual large scale construction, new technologies. My father learned how to build through watching other people and making mistakes. And when I was in Watertown, I learned because of the processes that they actually undertook. And I came back and, being 20 something years old, I said to my father, we're not doing it this old way.
And how'd that go for you?
He
How'd that
fired
work
me.
out?
He fired me. Yeah, no, he fired me, which kind of caused me to go for the current job I'm in. And but yeah, no, that was just the way it was. I came back, thought I knew it all, and to be frank with you, I did. I did a lot of stuff, everything up there. He was invited up to work in Watertown with us on a 115 acre site, and surprisingly, he did not mesh well with the other workers. There was about 130 of us there, and his first day, he almost got arrested. Almost got arrested, and I was acting as the interim superintendent of the project, and I'll tell a quick story. I said to him listen, I just need a machine operator for like 2 weeks until we find somebody. You want to come up, operate the machinery? He goes, listen, I don't want to do too much. I just want to work. I just want to do my time. I'm like, yeah, come on up. We have an apartment. You can stay there. There's a dozer, loader. You just got to fill in the dirt, backfill. Yeah. Okay, I'll come up. So first day he goes out to the backhoe. It's a Case 580 like he had. He's familiar with it. He goes up. He takes the time to clean it, grease it all up, and because it was in bad shape, had a flat tire. So he goes in, he fixes the flat tire. He goes out to go to it, and it's gone. It's no longer where he started it. So my father, being the detective that he is, followed the tracks and followed it almost to the other end of the job site, and he saw somebody operating it. And so he waited outside. The foreman of the job site at that particular job site went up to my father, and apparently at some point disrespected my father, which my father did not take kindly to. And I got called on the radio because he said, the radio came over as, hey, Egidio, you got to come down. We got a problem at building 6 or whatever it was. And I got down there with my truck, and I got there seeing my father had pinned this individual by the neck up against, and with my father's finger in his face, you disrespect me, don't talk to me like this. And so calming everything down, no charges were pressed, thankfully. But after that, everybody knew not to mess with him because he did have quite a temper, and didn't take much to set him off. But he did great. About a week later, the plumber made him exceptionally mad by not moving his vehicle. And my father, with the loader, picked up the back of his pickup truck and shoved it into a mud pile. And
Nice.
Yeah, that's what he did.
Yeah.
He told me to go jump in a lake, and my father said, no, don't say like this to me. And my father, literally with this big Cat 983 loader, picked up the back end of his pickup truck and nosed this pickup truck into the mud like a plow, and ended up in this huge mud pile to get out of the way. And there's a lot of screaming and shouting, carrying on. But my father was a lead follower, get out of my way kind of guy, and that's just the way it was. So again, this plumber had no idea who he was. Clearly got a better understanding of who he was after that. But yeah, that was. Anyway, what are your stories?
Go ahead.
My first job, actually, I was 8 years old, and my brother, Mark, who is 4 years older than me, he got a job delivering the Daily Freeman. And he did that for 2 weeks and decided he wasn't doing, at the time it was an afternoon newspaper. So he would come home from school, the big stack would be on the porch, and he'd have to fold it, put it in the bag, and then off he'd go. And he did it for 2 weeks. And then it was always in his name. I took it over, but my mother at that age for years, she would drive and I would run to the houses and then get back in the car, run to the other side, get back in the car, and she drove me around. And I did that.
I feel like that's cheating.
Well, I was 8. I was 8.
But still.
Well, I did that until I was 13. And at 13, I got a job working at Mickey's Igloo on the bypass. At the time, I would walk over at that, and all my friends worked with me, and it was actually, I was working under the table, but I was working there, and I stayed there. And that,
Off the books.
Off the books.
Okay.
So you didn't pay taxes on that? It's just a simple question, yes or no.
Well, how old were you then?
I was 13.
Oh, you were 13. You're
Yeah.
still not old enough to be working, though.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So they.
Child labor laws.
Yeah. Well,
That's why it exists today. People like you.
Yep.
the business traded hands when I was like 18, and then I worked someplace else. But they would open for St. Patrick's Day in March, and they would close on Halloween night. So I did that for many years, and I absolutely loved that job because all my best friends were there, and it used to be a hoppin' place. The lines would be out to the road until 10 p.m. every night, and it was great. It was a great summer job, great job for a teenager. Loved it. Loved every minute of it.
Nice. So I started babysitting. That was the first thing I did. My neighbors' kids, lots of babysitting. But the first time I was on payroll, I had a job for one day at Jolly Cow.
You screwed up that bad.
Because I couldn't do the little loops. I couldn't do it.
It's not easy.
It was like
prerequisite. That's not
I
the first
couldn't.
thing they
No,
try.
I know.
It gets out of control.
It's out of control.
Yes.
I couldn't
It
handle
is
it.
very hard to put ice cream on a cone.
It's really hard
You
to
don't
do.
realize it.
They
I'm
do
telling
serve
you.
more than just
No.
soft
Yeah, but
ice
when you're
cream on a
working-
cone.
It's just a simple twist.
But they-
It's not just a
I
simple
I
twist.
could do
You
it
have to
for
do
you.
this.
I mean, it's-
and you're pulling at the speed
Yes.
of the left.
And it just goes blah, blah, blah.
I feel like we need to have an ice cream competition
Well,
with doing this.
And a Jolly Cow at
day?
the time, it was you had to have a certain number of loops
Yep.
for small, certain for
Yep.
medium, certain for. I couldn't do it one day. My second job, I lasted 1 week. And by the way, I didn't get fired.
This
I
is
left
a
on my
terrible
own
track
accord.
record, by the way.
Because you said, if I can't do this properly, I'm out.
I'm out. No way. At perfection.
People deserve a better ice cream.
And then we all over you, and they have to
Yes.
throw out the product.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something.
It's
You
not easy.
tripped. while you're holding their cone, could you lick your hand?
I don't
Not their
know.
cone.
It was so stressful. I don't even want to think about it.
Wow.
So my next one was at Home Plate Deli. I worked at Home Plate Deli
Ah.
under a previous owner
A
Okay.
week.
Yeah.
a week.
Yep.
And that was not my shtick either. And then
Why?
I found I don't know. I just didn't like it.
Was it
Was
too
it
fast?
deli?
Was
you
it?
made sandwiches?
No, I
cleaned
just
up?
don't
Like,
think I liked the vibe.
Okay.
I don't know
what
why
part
though.
of the deli
Was
did
it
you
the
work at?
people you worked
I was-
with,
no, it
or
was-
like the customers that you
I
didn't
don't
like the
really
vibe?
remember.
Cash registers, type, you know. that
No,
type
I
of-
mean I did the register and the stuff in the back. Like
Oh.
it was just I can smell it still.
Uh-huh.
I didn't really like that.
When you did the deli stuff?
No, I didn't
did
get
you
to do the
slice
cutting.
tongue?
No, I didn't get to do
You're
that.
disgusting.
No.
What?
He's making fun of me because I did work in the ShopRite deli one summer in college,
Oh.
and you'd have
With
to.
Mark D Day?
I don't remember. I don't
Oh
know.
no, he worked at Weiss.
Oh.
When you slice the tongue.
I'd never used a slicer.
Oh,
I was
okay.
not that. It was a
Gross.
week. I was still basically in training.
Ugh.
Um,
Tongue and head cheese.
Oh, head cheese is delicious.
Gross.
Tongue's a little chewy.
Ugh.
that's
The
Yeah.
tongue, it would like. It made a noise.
I feel like I was there
on
during the
slicer.
breakfast shift, so we were doing eggs.
How
But
do
I
you
was- I
screw
think
up
I was
breakfast?
Just at the cashier, and I don't think I liked it because I don't think I liked their system,
Oh.
and I thought it needed to be better. So then I worked at Dunkin' Donuts for 4 years.
Wow.
The one next to, which is not where it is anymore, but next to
McDonald's?
and it had a
Okay.
counter, so it was like a diner, and I worked the nights 2 to 10. I loved it. I loved everything about it. I loved
And
the
were you-
regulars.
Were you able to walk there? Because you live close,
I walked.
didn't you?
Yep, I walked. It was only
That was
half-
nice. Had
half a
like
mile.
an old fashioned kind of vibe to it when you
Yep,
walked in.
and
Yeah.
the same exact people every night. And I'll tell you what, that was in 96 to 99. And the same regulars go to the new Dunkin' that came to the Dunkin' that I was when I was there. I could still go, and every time I go, if I go to the Dunkin' at night, it's like you were coming to this Dunkin' when in 96, 97, 98, 99.
It's like the show Cheers, right? Everyone
Yes,
shows up at the
everyone
bar
knows.
and-
Right. They all go get their donuts and
And we worked for
Go
tips.
home and
this
deal with
was
their diabetes.
before Dunkin' was automated, so it was like light and sweet. I know how many scoops of sugar, how many pumps of cream, and they made the donuts there at that time.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
So there was a lot of. So we filled the donuts. We made the donuts in the back. I loved it. And then I went to college and I worked at a place called Baskell before and after school childcare of Liverpool.
Oh.
When my husband, I didn't work when I was in college, but I finished college first and he was finishing his. So I worked while we lived together. And I also worked part-time at a grocery store called P&C. I was a cashier. And I would say of all the jobs that I've ever had, that was probably my most exciting. I loved working at the grocery store. I could tell you all the codes. I could tell you I just loved it.
because of its organization.
And because I loved seeing what people would buy.
Whoa.
Right?
Yeah,
So,
you're
like-
a cart.
Cart peeker.
You're a
Yeah,
cart
cart
peeker.
Yeah,
peeker.
cart peeker.
Well, I wasn't a
Yeah.
cart peeker. I was
That's a
scanning
whole nother
everything.
topic.
Oh.
There's a
I didn't
whole
No,
show
just
to
kinda
cart
be the
peekers.
one-
No, I wasn't judging people, but you
No,
like
You're
no,
definitely
you're
judging.
judging.
Look, of course you're judging.
no, because
Yeah.
I was getting inspired for what like that's such a good that looks delicious or I didn't know about that like so I was a young
But you
Life?
wouldn't say that. Oh, that looks delicious. What are you making?
Yeah. Did you start whole conversations?
I
Was it
did have
awkward?
conversations.
You did.
It was a small place,
Oh,
and
you're
the
one of
best
those
part was
cashiers?
Are you planning on using those pineapples with the cabbage?
What are you gonna do with that? Were you?
Huh.
I did start conversation. Yeah,
I would've
like
pushed
have
my
you
car-
had
I
that
would've kept
before?
pushing my
Have
car.
you gotten that before?
Yeah, no,
Because it was a
no,
small
don't go to
grocery
her.
store. It wasn't
There
like
are
a big
there are
one.
people at ShopRite that I will avoid. I
Yeah,
will
absolutely.
go stand on a longer line to avoid the long talker.
Yeah.
Oh,
Were
I
you
was
a long talker?
I mean, I don't know about long talker. I was a talker.
Let me ask you something. Were you responsible for stocking the shelves?
Reshop? No,
Oh, okay.
that's called reshop.
Reshop. So what did you do there?
Just cashier,
Just cashier.
and it was
Oh, okay.
timed.
Okay.
What?
It was timed. We were given scores based on our time.
Oh,
So that's
So
your-
all of my
Oh, so
jobs
it was a
were stressful
competition.
and competitive. And the better you did, you got credit in terms of a check towards actual groceries.
For
So an
processing.
incentive for
Ding,
processing
ding,
fast.
ding, ding,
fast.
ding.
Yep. And so now I can tell you on any item where the barcode is.
Now again, I have to ask because I remember when
Yeah.
now it's everything's UPC, right?
But you said you had
No,
barcodes.
for produce 9011 bananas.
Right, you needed the codes.
Yes.
But normally you grab a can, you scan it.
Oh yeah, no, we did that.
Right, you did that.
But we had to
I'm
put
young
the
enough,
number in
old
for
enough to
produce.
remember
Right.
having them go look at the can and say 79 cents, tick, 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 ding.
Oh
Like,
no.
Okay.
It was scanned.
All
And then I took a job at Beaver Lake Nature Center, which is where I got inspired to do what I'm doing now. I worked there full time as an environmental educator. And that was the last job I had before my career started when I was in 99. And my career has been what it has been the whole time.
Nice.
A week at a deli, a day at an ice cream shop.
I will tell you right now, the next time you have an opportunity with an ice cream cone to put an eight looper on
when
there.
would they ever have the opportunity to do that?
When
It's
you
not
go
like-
to the buffet.
When you go to
can
the
make-
buffet.
Oh, okay. Yep.
One
Yes.
night we're going to do this live from a buffet. We're going to just go there and we're going to just make
Are we
it.
going to have a competition how high you can go with it before it
No,
falls over?
I just urge you to do 8 loops on one cone without
Yeah.
it falling off.
It's
And
not
hand
this
it to another
easy. Yep.
person who will then eat it.
Or when you get it on there, now you got to dip it.
Right.
Oh, buddy. You got to make
Sprinkles.
sure that cone, and it can't be too soft. It is not easy.
Whoa, buddy, she said.
Oh, buddy. Yeah.
Wow.
It's not
It
as
is
easy
not-
as it
Challenge
looks.
accepted.
Do it.
All right. Okay.
I'll go first. So the key to a successful ice cream cone is you want to fill the cone itself. You want 7 loops. Is that what you told me it had to be? So you got to fill it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. Ready? All right, Ryan. Little shaky. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Got it. Stop now. There's 8. Uh-oh. 9. All right, you got this. No with vanilla, huh? Gotta move the cone. There we go. 1. 2, 3, 4. A little crooked. 5, 6, 7. All right, you did it. Nice.
She's going to edit all these, so
Great.
go ahead. Ready?
Oh, it's my turn.
Yeah. Tell us about your.
So similar to you, my first job, I worked for my father, who was a contractor as well. And the expectations were set very, very high. Obviously, working for family, there are no rules, right? You do it right, you do it my way, and this is how fast we need to get it done. But that carried on through all of my other jobs. Work ethic. You didn't have a choice. It didn't matter if it was a Saturday or a Sunday or any day of the week. You got up and you went to work every day. It didn't matter how you felt. It didn't matter what you wanted to do, what time you went to bed the night before. You got up and went to work. So working for family, because the expectations are so high and because you're there to try and help support it, I think that does carry through your other jobs. That's where we started with this. And that was, I mean, I started going to work with him when I was 7 or 8 years old. And he did all kinds of general contracting: roofing, siding, doors, windows, renovations, demolitions, a lot of painting, anything. At the time, you did what you could to make money. So I learned a lot with that. And in learning all of those things and picking up on bits and pieces of the trades through the years, it kind of led me to when he had jobs, they would ask, "Oh, do you know anybody to mow my lawn?" And he would point at me. So even when his job was done there, I would pick up where he left off. I would mow their grass. I would rake their leaves in the fall. I would shovel their driveway, shovel their sidewalks,
Wait, you
whatever
used
it
a
may
rake
be.
and not a leaf blower? Manual rake?
At the time, a leaf blower probably weighed more than I did.
Mm-hmm.
So, years of doing that into my early teenage years, working on and off for people. I had clients or customers that I worked for 10, 12 years mowing their lawns. I knew every rock, every stone, every root, every direction I could go, couldn't go, what time of the day I could mow, what time I couldn't, if the grass was wet, what I had to watch out for, where the snakes were, where the bees were, where the poison ivy was. It was great. And that was all off the books, obviously. That cash was king back then. And it was easy. And there was probably 8, 10, 12 lawns that I did and people that I worked for through the years. But as I had gotten older, the times change and businesses slow down and that. And I was in high school and I wanted to get a real job, where you go to work 40 hours a week and get a paycheck at the end of the week. And I went to work for a sign shop in Kingston. And it was signs and window lettering and cars and trucks and everything. And I absolutely loved it. I still to this day, one of my closest friends, and I loved what I did because you could be creative and productive all at the same time. And you can take an idea that's in somebody's head and you can design it on the computer and you take that and bring it to life, whether it's a new business or a rebrand or something that had been done for 20 years. I still see signs and banners and things that I made 20 plus years ago when I was working there. And I absolutely loved it. And I would work there after school during the week. I'd work there on the weekends. I would work during the summer every single day. I'd 50, 60 hours a week just to get it done because production was get it in, get it out. And there wasn't a lot of people that worked there. It was just the owner and myself. And he too was reluctant because he had some bad experiences with employees prior to that. And I went in and I was doing my own stuff. I want a sticker for my car. I need vinyl for my race cars or whatever it may be. And one day talking, I was just sitting there and I could see clearly that he was stressed. He needed help. And I said, do you need help? Oh, yeah, well, yeah, I don't know. I said, I'd be willing to come in and work for you. I want to learn how to do this. And I started and I was there for about a year and it was a great story. So I put in the time. I learned. Anytime I had downtime, I wanted to learn another piece of it, do something else, do something bigger, do something more. And a year after I was there, him and his wife went on their first vacation since they had been married.
Wow.
Because he trusted me enough to stay there and run the place while he was gone. And he walked out the door and never looked back until he came back from his vacation. And I handed him a stack full of invoices and a stack full of checks and a stack full of cash and said, "How do we do this week?" And he couldn't believe it. I loved it. I met and networked with so many people, police departments, fire departments, local businesses, regional businesses, national businesses. I still think about some of the Chili Willie's car wash stuff that we did that went to Juneau, Alaska. How did they find out about it? I don't know. I'm sure there's a sign shop a lot closer to Juneau, Alaska than Kingston, New York. And then around town, like I said, I still see signs that we made back then, insurance agencies and taxis and buildings. There's some in Saugerties that I just picked up, friends of mine. As we grew older, they got their own businesses. And I said, "Hey, I could take care of you." I loved it. I loved it because you could see the result of it. You were making people happy. You took their idea and you turned it into something. Like I said, I still maintain that relationship to this day just because of how invaluable the experience was. And it was really my first experience with people because you're dealing with customers one-on-one. And when someone goes out and buys a brand new truck, they bring a $50,000 truck and park it in your parking lot and say, okay, this is what I want you to do with it. You better not screw it up. Given it's only vinyl, it can get peeled off, but there's a lot of situations where things can go very, very bad. Trucks get scratched, especially today with the wraps and that. There's a lot of things that can go wrong.
How do wraps work?
They're just big, giant sticker sheets.
Yeah, but how do you get it on it?
You take that big, giant sheet and you lay it against the side and you spend a lot of time smoothing it out and putting it down to get it perfect. So you don't even realize that it's a
You can
wrap.
use a spray to make the first initial contact. that
You
gives
can,
And
yes.
then once you get it adjusted, you start to squeegee it all out. And,
Right.
But the placement is usually they normally tell you it's some sort of a product that allows you some mobility.
There
where
is,
it is.
so again, with technology,
We're not sharing any secrets online.
no. So with the technology, and mind you, when I started, the internet wasn't big on this stuff. And wraps are, I say, fairly new thing. I mean, the last 10 or 15 years, everything has really transitioned into that because sky's the limit. The ability
You make
to,
it sound like you were doing cave drawings. That's how long ago.
well,
was that?
the original
Were you
sign
drawing with
programs,
coal? Is that what you were writing with?
the original sign programs were all CAD based. And now most of them are Adobe based. And there's a lot of Photoshop, or not Photoshop, but specific sign programs to make this a whole lot easier. And the printing of it, when you see all these 3, 4, 5 color prints on people's vehicles, we were doing that 20 years ago, but every color was a different layer of vinyl.
Oh boy.
So you're essentially building this where today you just hit print and then take it and stick it on the side of a vehicle. But the technology is way better, not in just the software and the hardware, but in the materials themselves. The 3Ms and other material manufacturers have made it so that you can reposition things. But love that job. And again, the dedication and the longevity to that and putting in the time and enjoying what I did, again, carried through going to college and getting out with a professional degree and thinking that I wanted to be in a world of what my major was. I ended up in a room with no windows and climate control, and you didn't know if it was daytime or nighttime or what it was, but cutting edge technology. The company I worked for was #1 in the world at the time because it was a very specific area that we were developing and producing products in for the oil industry, by the way. And
Oh, you got to look at me.
uh,
Like I'm
it-
responsible for saving the world every day.
but with this technology,
Yeah.
it transitioned into medical technology as well. So I also enjoyed that because I was using what I went to school for, but you were part of the greater good and it was worldwide. But I didn't like
I don't hear that often. The greater good.
the fact that it was, you spent a lot of time inside in climate control. You didn't really get to enjoy the summers. You didn't get to enjoy the winters. It was a much different experience, and ultimately went back to construction, but became interested more in highway construction, which led me to where I am now, and road building and bridge building and more of the civil and highway part of the engineering and construction part of it. I like being hands-on. I like being in the field. I like doing that. But that early on experience of working for family is something that you will never forget. It's burned into your brain. That PTSD happens all the time, but it's invaluable because there is no bar to move up as you develop as a young human. The bar is already set here, and you're only here because you're 8. Get on the roof. 3 stories up. A bundle of shingles weighed more than I did. Okay, I don't care if you take the whole bundle up at once or you take them one shingle at a time. Those shingles need to be on that roof, and up the ladder you go. So it was safe at the time.
Doesn't sound very safe.
Yeah, what's it? What's
At the
that?
time.
Not sounding good.
What, at the time? They're not at the time. It's either safe or not safe.
Well, at the time.
Because now
Um,
you send an 8-year-old up on 3 stories up on a ladder, you're going to jail.
Yeah, well, 8-year-olds were tougher back then,
Oh my gosh.
but invaluable. Invaluable.
Yeah, I think working for your parents, you were with them all at the time, even if it was after school or whatever. You'd work with them, and then you'd get home with them. So you'd hear it there, and you'd hear it at the dinner table,
Oh,
and
yeah.
at the breakfast table.
Absolutely.
And so you never got away from it really. And I worked at Sanborn's, but I was there maybe 4, 6, 8, maybe 12 hours, depending on. But that was it. We didn't break bread together at the dinner table. Didn't have to worry about what the weekend was like.
Right. When you left, you left. He was done.
And because my father had his own company, his own construction company, as much as we worked essentially when we got past college, when I got past college, Monday through Saturday at a job site. Sunday you were home taking care of the dump truck, greasing the machines, fixing what was broke, preparing for Monday's thing, and so it was quite a bit. And I agree. I think part of it is that. And yeah, there's no regrets. Certainly, like you said, it kind of molded me into the person I am. But within that, and it's a different topic, I think, is just the inner drive.
Right.
You could have easily have told your father at a certain age, maybe not that early, but to go pound salt.
Right. And essentially, I didn't do that when I went to work at the sign shop. I wanted a steady, flexible, because when I'm in school, when I get out of school at the end of the day, even when I was in high school, it's too late to go to work. But I wanted something to keep me going. And once I had gotten in, it was, well, now I'm not going to give this up to go back to doing this. And I did. I would still work with him on my off days. I'd still work with him on the weekends. But I think another part of that is too, though, that you didn't want to. I didn't want to. I didn't want to let him down because I knew he needed the help.
Because you were built.
But I also saw the fruits of the labor, because the more I can help him, the better he can do, which is what provides for the family. Now, the family, I'm an only child, so it was just my mom, my dad, and myself. But the more he could do, the better he could do, the better we all did. So if I could be a part of the solution, and a job would take him 4 weeks, but if I was with him, it would take 2. Now you can move on to the next job and the next job and the next job. And that's what put food on the table. That's what keeps the lights on. That's what keeps the clothes on your back. That's what you do. And the reward, listen, at my age, I learned very young that because of the ups and downs, you have to save, right? Make $1, save $1. I may have taken it to the extreme as when I was younger, because
Make $1, save $2. I
make
want to know how you did that.
make $1, turn it into 2. So I learned that early on. And so, that came from the understanding of the value of money. It wasn't about the things. It was about the being comfortable and not having to worry about where the next thing came from. If we didn't work next week because it rained for 5 days, it means you didn't get paid for 5 days. So you still had bills to pay that following week. You had to be sure you're not just going to go out and blow this week's paycheck and not have anything for next week, because if you didn't work, you didn't have it. So in learning that and seeing that came again from working with him and knowing he worked very, very hard for his money. And if I could work as hard as he did, we could either do twice as much, or he could work half and I would work half. And the result would be the same at the end. But learning to save for those ups and downs, the rainy days, the dips in the economy where people aren't spending money doing the construction, in knowing the value in a hard day's work, which is again a whole nother discussion.
Is there value in it?
I think absolutely there's value in it, because if you
We
hand
should save
somebody
that for the next one.
$20,
Oh, we're starting at one.
no, hold on. If you hand somebody $20,
Yep.
they say thank you and they walk away.
Okay.
If they earn that $20 doing something for you, whatever it may be, at least they know that, one, it gives them value.
Does it?
Yeah, I think it does. Because they themselves say, okay, this feels good. I'm rewarded for my
Efforts.
effort. Yes,
Teach a person to fish.
exactly.
I think that's a whole different topic.
Okay. We'll save that for the next one.
All right.
All right.
Seems like a suite of good jobs that brought us to where we are today.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So thank you for watching, and I hope you like and subscribe.
We'll see you soon.